Travel books have been written since classical times. Those that are by notable authors and are themselves notable are listed here. Other books, even if by notable travel authors, are not included. Note: listed by year of publication of the majority of the writer's notable works. Ancient Near East. Wenamin, Egyptian priest. Account of his travels through the Mediterranean Sea. Story of Wenamin. Classical Antiquity. Xenophon. 431–355 BC. Anabasis, about the expedition of Cyrus the Younger, a Persian prince, against his brother, King Artaxerxes II. The book then moves on to Cyrus's Greek troops' travels through Asia Minor back home to Greece. Lucian of Samosata. c. 125 after c. 180. True history, documents a fantastic voyage that parodies many mythical travels recounted by other authors, such as Homer, considered to be among the first works of science fiction. Pausanias. Florida. 2nd century. Description of Greece. Decimus Magnus Ausonius. c. 310–395. Mosella. The Moselle. c. 370. Describes the poet's trip to the banks of the river Moselle, then in Gaul. Faxian. c. 337 c. 422. Chinese traveler to India and Ceylon. A record of Buddhistic kingdoms, being an account by the Chinese monk He of his travels in India and Ceylon. A.D. 399–414. In Search of the Buddhist Books of Discipline. Rutilius Claudius Nammatianus. Florida. 5th century. De Reditu Suo. Concerning his return. c. 416. The poet describes his voyage along the Mediterranean Sea coast from Rome to Gaul. Cosmas Indicopoulos. Florida. 6th century. Byzantine traveler who made several voyages to India during the reign of Emperor Justinian. Christian topography. c. 550. Tang dynasty. Shanzang. 602–664. Great Tang records on the western regions. 646. Narrative of the Buddhist monk's journey from China to India. Enon. c. 793–794–864. Japanese Buddhist monk who chronicled his travels in Tang, China. The record of a pilgrimage to China in search of the law. 838–847. 10th century. Ibn Hawqal, Arab writer, geographer, and chronicler, traveled to remote parts of the European Mediterranean, Asia and Africa. Surat al-Ard. The Face of the Earth. Ahmad ibn Fadlan. Kitab al-Mulk al-Saqaliba. A letter to the king al-Saqaliba. Ibn Fadlan's account of the caliphal embassy from Baghdad to the king of the Volga-Buffers. c. 921. 11th century. Nazir Khusraw. 1004–1088. Persian traveler in the Middle East. Sofanama. c. 1046. 12th century. Abu ad-Din al-Husayn Muhammad ibn Ahmad ibn Jubair. 1145–1217. The Travels of Ibn Jubair. c. 1185. Gerald of Wales. 1146–1223. Itinerarium Cambriae. Journey through Wales. 1191. 13th century. Yaqut al-Hamawi. 1179–1229. Mujam al-Budan. Dictionary of Countries. Giovanni da Pian del Carpine. 1182–1252. Franciscan missionary and Archbishop of Antivari. Historia Mongolorum. c. 1240. The report of his embassy to the Great Khan on behalf of the papacy. It is the oldest European account of the Mongols. William of Rubruck. c. 1220 c. 1293. Itinerarium fratris Wilhelmi de rubriquista ordem fratrum minorum Galli. Anno Gracia 1253 ad partes orientales. Marco Polo. 1254 to 1324 or 1325. Venetian traveler to China and the Mongol Empire. And Rustichello da Pisa, Florida. Late 13th century. Writer. Il Milione. 1298. 14th century. John of Montecorvino. 1247 to 1328. Italian Franciscan missionary. Founder of the earliest Roman Catholic missions in India and China. Archbishop of Cambaluc. Letters. 1305 to 1306. Ibn Battuta. 1304 to 1368 to 1369. Moroccan world traveler. Rilla. 1355. Literally entitled, A Gift to Those Who Contemplate the Wonders of Cities and the Marvels of Traveling. John Mandeville. Fictional character. The Travels of Sir John Mandeville. c. 1356. An imaginary account of his travels in Asia based on a variety of true sources about the eastern countries. 15th century. Ruy González de Clavijo. Died in 1412. Spanish ambassador of Henry III of Castile to the court of Timor. Narrative of the embassy of Ruy González de Clavijo to the court of Timor at Samarkand AD 1403-6. Ghiyat al-Din Naqash, who wrote, in Persian, a detailed account of his travel from Herat to Beijing on a diplomatic mission in 1420–1422. It became one of the most detailed accounts of China in the Persian and Turkish literature for the next century or two. Marwan, ca. 1380–1460, and Fei Sin, ca. 1385 after 1436, each of whom wrote a book about the lands visited with Zheng He's fleet. Niccolo de' Conti, 1395–1469. An Italian merchant who explored India, China and Indonesia from 1419 to 1444. His travel account was written by request of Pope Eugene IV and is included in Book IV of de Varietate Fortunae by Poggio Bracciolini. Pedro Taffa, c. 1410 c. 1484, Spanish diplomat of King Juan II of Castile. He traveled across Europe, Morocco and the Near East. Andancas y viajes de Pero Taffa por diversas partes del mundo ávidos. Afanas y Nikitin, 1474. Russian merchant, traveler and writer. A Journey Beyond the Three Seas. Conrad Grunenberg. Pilgrimage to the Holy Land. 1486. Christopher Columbus. c. 1450–1506. Journal of the First Voyage. 16th century. Zahir-ud-Din Muhammad Babur. 1483–1531. Founder of the Mughal Empire. Babur. Memoirs, including his descriptions of the places he lived and/or conquered. Duarte Barbosa. -1521. Portuguese writer and explorer who died in Magellan's circumnavigation. The Book of Duarte Barbosa. An account of the countries bordering the Indian Ocean and their inhabitants. 1516. Originally known through the testimony of Italian Giovanni Battista Ramusio. Antonio Pigafetta. c. 1491 c. 1531. Venetian explorer. Relazioni del primo viaggio intorno al mondo. 1524. An account of the first circumnavigation of the globe. Gaspar da Cruz. ca. 1520–1570. Tratado das Cruces da China became the first book-length work on China in Europe. It also told about the author's experiences in Cambodia and Hormuz. Piri Reis. Died in 1553. Turkish geographer known for his world map. Kitab-i Bariyya. Book of Navigation. A detailed book about the Mediterranean Sea. Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca. c. 1488–1490 to 1557–1558. Spanish conqueror and explorer. La Relación. 1542. An account of his 8 years' captivity and exploration in North America. Fernão Mendes Pinto. 1509–1583. Portuguese explorer and writer. Peregrinação, meaning pilgrimage. Published posthumously in 1614. Memoir of his travels in the Middle and Far East. Ethiopia, Arabian Sea, India and Japan. As one of the first Europeans to reach it in 1542. Giovanni Battista Ramusio. 1485–1557. Venetian geographer and compiler. Navigazioni e Viaggi. Navigations and Travels. 1555–1559. A large collection of explorers' first-hand accounts of their travels around the world. The first one of its kind. Richard Hakluyt. c. 1552–1616. English priest and travel writings compiler. The principal navigations, voyages and discoveries of the English nation. 1589. A foundational text of the travel literature genre. Sadi Ali Rice. 1498–1563. Turkish sailor. Mirat ol-Memalik. The Mirror of Countries. About his voyage to India. Anthony Knivet. Florida. 1591–1649. British sailor and privateer, who was held captive in Brazil by the Portuguese and then by the indigenous Tupi. The admirable adventures and strange fortunes of Master Anthony Knivet, which went with Master Thomas Candace in his second voyage to the South Sea. 1591. 17th century. Samuel Purchas. c. 1577–1626. English cleric and travel writings compiler. Purchas. His Pilgrimage, or Relations of the World and the Religions Observed in All Ages. 1613. Purchas. His Pilgrim, Microcosmus, or the History of Man, relating the wonders of his generation, vanities in his degeneration, necessity of his regeneration. 1619. Hakluytus Posthumus. A Purchas. His Pilgrims, containing a history of the world in sea voyages and land travels, by Englishmen and others. 4 vols. 1625. Thomas Coryat. c. 1577–1617. English traveller. Coryat's crudities hastily gobbled up in 5 months' travels. 1611. Pedro Paez. 1564–1622. Spanish Jesuit missionary in Ethiopia. History of Ethiopia. 1620. Includes the first account of one of the sources of the Nile River ever written by a European. Evliya Çelebi. 1610–1683. Turkish traveller. Seyahat name. Johann Sigmund Werfbane. 1613–1661. Reisnacht den Molukken und Vorderindien. 1632–1646. Travel to the Moluccas and the Middle East Indies. 1632–1646. 1646. François de la Boulaye-Lagouze. 1623–1668. Les Voyages et Observations du Sieur de la Boulaye-Lagouze. 1653 and 1657. One of the very first true travel books. Edward Terry. 1590–1660. A Voyage to East India. 1655. Pietro della Valle. 1586–1652. Italian who traveled throughout Asia during the Renaissance period. The Travels of Signor Pietro della Valle, a noble Roman, into East India and Arabia deserts. Geronimo Lobo. 1595–1678. A Portuguese Jesuit missionary in Ethiopia. Itinerario. This book was translated by Samuel Johnson in 1723 and inspired his own work, The History of Rastlers. Prince of Abyssinia, François Bernier, 1625–1688. Personal physician of the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb during his long stay in India. Travels in the Mughal Empire. 1671. Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, 1605–1689. Gem merchant who made several trips to Persia and India between the years 1630 and 1668. Les Six Voyages de Jean-Baptiste Tavernier. 1675. Jean Chardin, 1643–1713. Jewelry trader who traveled to Persia and India. The Travels of Sir John Chardin in Persia and the Orient. Edited bit by bit between 1686 and 1711. Matsuo Basho, 1644–1694. Kashima Kiko, A Visit to Kashima Shrine. 1687. Oi no Kobyumi, or Utatsu Kiko, Record of a Travel-Worn Satchel. 1688. Sarashina Kiko, A Visit to Sarashina Village. 1688. The Narrow Road to the Deep North and Other Travel Sketches. Trans. 1967. 18th century. George Shelvark. C. 1675–1742. English privateer who carried out a circumnavigation of the world. A voyage round the world by way of the Great South Sea. 1723. A book that inspired The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Coleridge. Daniel Defoe. C. 1660–1731. English trader, writer, journalist, pamphleter, and spy. A tour through the whole island of Great Britain. First published in 3 volumes between 1724 to 1727. An account of Defoe's tours, or circuits, throughout England, Wales, and Scotland, with a focus on the social and cultural landscape as well as the geographic. Jonathan Swift, 1667–1745. Gulliver's Travels. 1726. Amended 1735. A satiric parody of the genre. Osman Aga of Temesvar. 1670–1725. Turkish soldier who wrote Gavurlar in Esiri, Prisoner of Infidels, in 1724 about his POW days in Austria. Charles Marie de la Condamine. 1701–1774. French geographer and mathematician who took part in the geodesic mission to Peru of 1735–1739. The first international scientific expedition. Journal du Voyage fait à l'Équateur. Servant. Introduction historique à la Marche des Trois Premiers degrés du Méridien. 1751. Jorge Juan y Santasilia and Antonio de Ulloa. 2 Spanish mathematicians who also participated in the aforementioned scientific expedition. Relación Histórica del Viaje a la América Meridional. 1748. Lady Mary Wortley Montagu. 1689–1762. Known for the letters she wrote during several trips abroad, which were important for later female travel writers. These letters include Turkish embassy letters, letters describing her life as an ambassador's wife in Turkey, important as one of the earliest discussions of the Muslim world by a woman. Henry Fielding. 1707–1754. Journal of a Voyage to Lisbon. 1755. Tobias Smollett. 1721–1771. Travels through France and Italy. 1766. Lawrence Stern. 1713–1768. A Sentimental Journey Through France and Italy. 1768. Louis Antoine de Bougainville. 1729–1811. French navigator, explorer and military commander. Le Voyage autour du monde. Par la frégate La Boudeuse. Et la flûte la étoile. 1772. a book about his circumnavigation, famous at its time for his description of Tahiti as an paradisiac utopia. It also inspired Diderot's supplement Au Voyage de Bougainville. Samuel Johnson, 1709–1784. A Journey to the Western Islands of Scotland. 1775. The Lexicographer and his friend James Boswell. 1740–1795. Visit Scotland in 1773. James Boswell. 1740–1795. An Account of Corsica. The Journal of a Tour to that Island. And Memoirs of Pascal Paoli. 1768. The earliest piece of literature about the Grand Tour. The Journal of a Tour to the Hebrides with Samuel Johnson. Hull. D. 1785. A travel journal by Boswell about his trip with Samuel Johnson. 1709–1784. To Scotland in 1773. James Bruce. 1730–1794. A Scottish traveller in North Africa and Ethiopia. Travels to discover the source of the Nile. 1790. Where he claims to have been the first European to discover the source of the Blue Nile. Despite previous accounts by Paez and Lobo mentioned above. Thomas Jefferson. 1743–1826. Thomas Jefferson Travels. Selected Writings. 1784–1789 Record of Jefferson's travels in France, Holland, Germany and Italy. Included in his complete works with selected portions in various collections of his writings. Mary Wollstonecraft. 1759–1797. A Short Residence in Sweden. 1796. Letters written in Sweden, Norway, and Denmark. 1796. Jippon-shiriku. 1765–1831. Tokaidochu Hizaku-rige. The Shanks-mare. One of the most famous of the Edo period Michiyuki. Journey. Novels. 19th century. Johann Gottfried Siamy. 1763–1810. Spaziegang nach Syracuse. 1803. Dorothy Wordsworth. 1771–1855. Recollections of a Tour Made in Scotland. A.D. 1803. Finished and first circulated in 1803. First published in 1874. John Quincy Adams. 1767–1848. Letters on Silesia. Written during a tour through that country in the years 1800, 1801, 1804. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. 1743–1832. Italianischi Rees. 1816–1817. Sir Henry Holland. 1st Baronet. 1788–1873. Travels in the Ionian Isles, Albania, Thessaly, Macedonia, and c. during the years 1812 and 1813. 1815. Marie Henry Bale. 1783–1842. French novelist. Rome, Naples or Florence. 1817. James Fenimore Cooper. 1789–1851. Gleanings in Europe. Switzerland. 1836. Gleanings in Europe. The Rhine. 1836. Gleanings in Europe. England. 1837. Marquis de Custine. 1792–1857. Empire of the Tsar. A Journey Through Eternal Russia. 1838. Heinrich Heine. 1797–1856. Reesbilder. 1826–33. Hartz-Rees. 1853. Francis Trollope. 1779–1863. Domestic Manners of the Americans. 1832. Washington Irving. 1783–1859. The Alhambra. A series of tales and sketches of the Moors and Spaniards. 1832. Mary Shelley. 1797–1851. English writer, author of Frankenstein, Rambles in Germany and Italy. In 1840, 1842, and 1843. 1844. Isabella Francis Roma, 1798–1852. A Pilgrimage to the Temples and Tombs of Egypt, Nubia and Palestine in 1845–6. 1846. Flora Tristan, 1803–1844. Peregrinations of a Pariah, 1838. Promenades in London, 1840. Karl Baedeker, 1801–1859. German publisher whose company set the standard for authoritative guidebooks for tourists. Rifa el-Tartawi, 1801–1873. Egyptian traveler to France. Taklas al-Ibris fi Torkis Baris. An Imam in Paris. Account of a stay in France by an Egyptian cleric. 1826–1831. Quote, 1834. Theodore Fontaine, 1819–1898. German novelist and poet. Wanderungen durch die Mark Brandenburg, 1862–1889. Lady Hester Stanhope, 1776–1839. The first modern Holy Land archaeologist. Also a memoirist. Memoirs of the Lady Hester Stanhope as related by herself in conversations with her physician. 1846. Travels of Lady Hester Stanhope, forming the completion of her memoirs narrated by her physician. 1847. George Borrow, 1803–1881. The Bible in Spain. 1843. Wild Wales. 1862. Susanna Moody, 1803–1885. Roughing It in the Bush. 1852. John Lloyd Stephens, 1805–1852. Incidents of Travel in Egypt, Arabia Petraea and the Holy Land. 1837. Incidents of Travel in Greece, Turkey, Russia and Poland. 1838. Incidents of Travel in Central American, Chiapas and Yucatan. 1841. Incidents of Travel in Yucatan. 1843. Alexis de Tocqueville, 1805–1859. Journey to America, 1831–1832. Nehemiah Adams, 1806–1878. A South Side View of Slavery. 1854. Hans Christian Andersen, 1805–1875. The Improvisator. 1835. Charles Darwin, 1809–1882. The Voyage of the Beagle. 1839. Alexander Kinglake, 1809–1891. Eothen, 1844. Charles Dickens, 1812–1870. American Notes, 1842. Pictures from Italy, 1844–1845. Herman Melville, 1819–1891. Type, A Peep at Polynesian Life. 1846. Omu, A Narrative of Adventures in the South Seas. 1847. Chronicles of Melville's Experiences as a Sailor in Polynesia. Gustave Flaubert, 1821–1880. Left Travel Notes and Letters, including Flaubert in Egypt, A Sensibility on Tour, Publ. 1972. Letters, Alfred Russel Wallace, 1823–1913. The Malay Archipelago describes 8 years exploring Indonesia and other islands. Henry Walter Bates, 1825–1892. The Naturalist on the River Amazons. 1863. Describes 11 years in the Amazon rainforest. Mary Ann Barker, 1831–1911. Station Life in New Zealand. 1870. A Year's Housekeeping in South Africa. 1880. Isabella Bird, 1831 to 1904. Published more than a dozen books on her global travels, including The Englishwoman in America, 1856, The Hawaiian Archipelago, 1875, The Golden Chersonese and the Way Thither, 1883, Korea and Her Neighbors, 1898, The Yangtze Valley and Beyond, 1899, Fran Lipstick, 1831 to 1887, Popotovania od Litia do Katowice, 1858. A journey from Litia to Katowice that includes a very influential Slovenian literary program. Armand Vambéry, 1832 to 1913. His Life and Adventures, 1889. William Morris, 1834 to 1896. Icelandic Journals, 1911. Mark Twain, 1835 to 1910. The Innocents Abroad, 1869. Roughing It, 1872. A Tramp Abroad, 1880. Following the Equator, 1897. Harriet Beecher Stowe, 1811 to 1896. Palmetto Leaves, 1873. John Burroughs, 1837 to 1921. Fresh Fields, 1884. William Dean Howells, 1837 to 1920. Certain Delightful English Towns, 1906. Henry James, 1843 to 1916. A Little Tour in France, 1884. English Hours, 1905. The American Scene, 1907. Italian Hours, 1909. Joshua Slocum, 1844 to 1909. Sailing Alone Around the World, 1899. Robert Louis Stevenson, 1850 to 1894. An Inland Voyage, 1878. Travels with a Donkey in the Saverne, 1879. The Silverado Squatters, 1883. Theodore Roosevelt, 1858 to 1919. Ranch Life and the Hunting Trail, 1888. Through the Brazilian Wilderness, 1914. Pandita Ramabai, 1858 to 1922. Pandita Ramabai's American Encounter, The Peoples of the United States, 1889. Prince Bojidar Karageorgievich, 1862 to 1908. Enchanted India, 1898. Mary Kingsley, 1862 to 1900. Travels in West Africa, 1897. J. Smeaton Chase, 1864 to 1923. Yosemite Trails, 1911. California Coast Trails, 1913. California Desert Trails, 1919. Nellie Bly, 1864 to 1922. Around the World in 72 Days, 1890. Georges Clemenceau, 1841 to 1929. French Prime Minister and World War I leader. Opié du Sinai, 1898. New ed. 2000. Travels in Jewish Europe down to Palestine. 20th century. Nagai Kafu American Stories. Being diaries of his travels through America. First published in Japanese as American Monogatari. 1908. Modern ed. Columbia University Press. 2000. Octave Mirbeau, 1848 to 1917. La 6-88. 1908. Yelena Dmitrijevic, 1862 to 1945. Letters from Nis regarding harems. 1897. Letters from Salonika on Young Turk Revolution. 1918. Letters from India. 1928. Letters from Egypt. 1929. The New World. Alias. In America for a Year. 1934. Edith Wharton. 1862 to 1937. In Morocco. 1920. Daisy Bates. 1859 to 1951. The Passing of the Aborigines. 1938. Carl Gustav Emil Mannerheim, 1867–1951. Across Asia from west to east in 1906 to 1908. English trans. 1940. Explorations by Tsarist spy who would later become President of Finland, Norman Douglas, 1868–1962. Old Calabria. 1915. Laura Ingalls Wilder, 1867–1957. On the Way Home. 1962. West from Home. 1974. A Little House Traveler. 2006. Gertrude Bell, 1868–1926. Persian Pictures. 1894. Syria, The Desert and the Zone. 1907. Felix Salten, 1869–1945. Neue Menschen auf alter Erde. Eine Palästinenser. 1925. FUNF Minute in America. 1931. André Gide, 1869–1951. Voyage au Congo. 1927. Le Retour de T. Chad. 1928. Retour du Lieu. R.S.S. 1936. Retouches Amon, Retour du Lieu. R.S.S. 1937. Ernest Pisotto, 1869–1940. Our Hispanic Southwest, 1916. Contains the first usage of the ethnic slur, spic. Hilaire Belloc, 1870–1953. The Path to Rome, 1902. A ramble by foot from central France to Rome in 1901. W. Somerset Maugham, 1874–1965. On a Chinese Screen, 1922. Vignettes of China from the master of the short story, Yone Noguchi, 1875–1947. The American Diary of a Japanese Girl, 1903. Jack London, 1876–1916. The Cruise of the Snark, 1911. Isidora Sekulic, 1877–1958. Pisma is Norveska, Letters from Norway, 1914. D. H. Lawrence, 1885–1930. Sea and Sardinia, 1921. Isaac Dinesen, Karen Blixen, 1885–1962. Out of Africa, 1938. Al McCarlan, 1889–1950. Moj Mali Katarjek. Roman is Katarjski, My Little Chinese. A Novel from China, 1921. Yurik Jusnaga Morha, Imbander Subze. 1930. Mystica Jusnaga Morha. I. Del Polynesia. 2. Del Melanesia Micronesia, Mystic of the South Sea. Polynesia. Melanesia Micronesia. 1931. Malik. 1932. Mesasiv Saltzer. Zagodba is Perugia, The Tears of the Moon. A Story from Peru. 1935. Stiri de Kleta v Vetru Usode. Zagodba Z Jusnaga Morha, Four Girls in the Wind of Destiny. A Story from South Sea. 193,619,391,943. Nabobova, Stranska Zina, Nabob's Side Wife. 1937. Mala Siamkir, Little Siamese. 1937. Najmaj CVN UK Kastichi Vega ICAA. Novella is Katarjski, the youngest grandson of the Honorable ICAA. A Novel from China. 1948. Ojoni-san. Japonsky Novella, Ojoni-san. Japanese Novels. 2006. Kotyu Jetnerka Pre-Love-China Glavo na Norvigi Vineji, as a prisoner among the headhunters in New Guinea. 1960. Samotno Petovania, Ein Samuel Treese. 1969. A Slovene anthropologist who spoke 12 world languages, published 24 books and over 40 literary works. between 1921 and 1937 from her travels in China, Japan, Papua New Guinea, India, Polynesia, Micronesia, Australia, Peru. Henry Varlam Morton, 1892–1979. The Heart of London, 1925. In Search of England, 1927. Rebecca West, 1892–1983. Black Lamb and Grey Falcon, 1941. An 1181-page look at Yugoslavia before World War II. Freya Stark, 1893–1993. The Valleys of the Assassins, 1934. The Southern Gates of Arabia, A Journey in the Hadramaut, 1936. Scene in the Hadramaut, 1938. A Winter in Arabia, 1940. Ionia, A Quest, 1954. The Lycian Shore, 1956. Alexander's Path, 1958. Riding to the Tigris, 1959. Mahapandit Rahulsan Krichayan, 1893–1963. Volga Ganga, A Journey from Volga to Ganga, 1944. Thomas Rorcat, 1894–1976. L'Honorable Parti de Campagne, The Honorable Picnic, 1924. De Shanghai a Canton, From Shanghai to Canton, 1927. Amelia Earhart, 1897–1937. 20 Hours, 40 Minute, 1928. Last Flight, 1937. J. Slowerhoff, 1898–1936. Aline de Havens Zij en ons true. Only the ports are loyal to us. 1992. 1927–1932. Peter Aufschneider, 1899–1973. 8 Years in Tibet, 1983. Ernest Hemingway, 1899–1961. A Movable Feast, 1964. Published posthumously. Emily Kimbrough, 1899–1989. Writer of travel humor, and a right good crew, 1958. Gordon Sinclair, 1900–1984. Khyber Caravan, Through Kashmir, Waziristan, Afghanistan, Balochistan and northern India, 1936. A somewhat curmudgeonly account of 1934 travels in British India by a later famous Canadian journalist and television personality, Richard Halliburton, 1900–1939. One of the most famous explorers and adventure writers of his generation. The Royal Road to Romance, 1925. The Glorious Adventure, 1927. New Worlds to Conquer, 1929. The Flying Carpet, 1932. 7 League Boots, 1935. Pearl S. Buck, 1892–1973. Awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature, 1938. My Several Worlds, 1954. A Bridge for Passing, 1962. The People of Japan, 1966. China as I See It, 1970. Vivian de Watteville, 1900–1957. Out in the Blue, 1927. Speak to the Earth. Wanderings and Reflections Among Elephants in Mountains, 1937. John Steinbeck, 1902–1968. A Russian Journal, 1948. A Trip Through Russia, Ukraine and Georgia in the Soviet Union shortly after World War II with a friend and renowned war photographer Robert Capa. Travels with Charlie, In Search of America, 1962. An American road book describing Steinbeck's journeys with his poodle, Charlie. Charles Lindbergh, 1902–1974. We, 1927. The Spirit of St. Louis, 1953. Chiang Yi, 1903–1977. The Silent Traveler series, 11 books about his travels in Britain, the USA and Japan. Ella Myatt, 1903–1997. Swiss travel writer. Turkestan Solo, one woman's expedition from the Tian Shan to the Kizilkum. Her journey from Moscow to Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan in 1932. The Cruel Way. From Geneva to Kabul, the land of the Sherpas. Photographs and texts on her first encounter with Nepal in 1951. Evelyn Waugh, 1903–1966. War Abroad. Collected trivial writing, an account of the English novelist's restless wanderings around the world in the 1930s and later. 92 Days. Travels in Guyana and Brazil. 1932. J. M. Singh. 1871–1909. The Aran Islands. With illustrations by Jack B. Yates. 1907. Travels in Wicklow, West Kerry and Connemara. With illustrations by Jack B. Yates. 1911. Graham Greene. 1904–1991. Journey Without Maps. 1936. Gerald Brennan. 1894–1987. The Spanish Labyrinth. 1943. The Face of Spain. 1950. Robert Byron. 1905–1941. The Road to Oxian. 1937. Travels in Persia and Afghanistan. Lawrence van der Post. 1906–1996. The Lost World of the Kalahari. 1958. Oberon War. 1939–2001. Described van der Post as the person in whose company he'd most like to spend an evening. This book by the South African soldier, explorer, writer suggests why. James Michener. 1907–1997. Iberia. Spanish Travels and Reflections. 1968. Robert A. Heinlein. 1907–1988. Tramp Royal. 1992. Peter Fleming. 1907–1971. British adventurer and travel writer. One's Company. A Journey to China in 1933. Travels through the USSR, Manchuria and China. News from Tartary. A Journey from Peking to Kashmir. Journey from Peking to Srinagar via Singkang. He was accompanied on this journey by Ella Myatt. Kinney. Later reissued as half of Travels in Tartary. Ian Fleming. 1908–1964. British writer and spy. Brother of Peter Fleming. Thrilling Cities. 1963. M. F. K. Fisher. 1908–1992. How to Cook a Wolf. 1942. Map of Another Town. A Memoir of Provence. 1964. Dubious Honors. 1988. Long Ago in France. The Years in Dijon. 1991. Martha Gellhorn. 1908–1998. Travels with Myself and Another. A Memoir. 1978. Paul Bowles. 1910–1999. Yalala. 1957. Their Heads Are Green and Their Hands Are Blue. 1963. Wilfred Thesiger. 1910–2003. Arabian Sands. 1959. The Marsh Arabs. 1964. Gavin Young. 1928–2001. Return to the Marshes. 1977. Iraq. Land of Two Rivers. 1980. Slow Boats to China. 1981. Halfway Around the World. An Improbable Journey. 1983. Slow Boats Home. 1985. Lawrence Durrell. 1912–1990. Prospero's Cell. A Guide to the Landscape and Manners of the Island of Corsaira. 1945. This text describes Durrell's time in Corfu. It should be read in tandem with his brother Gerald's My Family and Other Animals. Reflections on a Marine Venus. 1953. Experiences in Rhodes. Bitter Lemons. 1957. Travels in Cyprus. Heinrich Harrer. 1912 to 2006. 7 Years in Tibet. 1952. Gavin Maxwell. 1914 to 1969. People of the Reeds. 1957. Patrick Lee Firma. 1915 to 2011. Mani. Travels in the Southern Peloponnese. 1953. Rumeli. Travels in Northern Greece. 1966. A Time of Gifts. 1977. Covers the first part of Firma's journey from Rotterdam to Constantinople as a 19-year-old in 1933-34. Rewritten in old age from memory. Covering the Netherlands to Hungary. Between the Woods and the Water. 1986. The second part of the journey begun in A Time of Gifts. Covering Hungary to Romania. 3 Letters from the Andes. 1991. The Broken Road. 2013. The third part of the journey narrated in A Time of Gifts and Between the Woods and the Water. Covering Romania to Thrace. Camilo José Cela. 1916 to 2002. Viaje la Alqueria. 1948. Mary Lee Settle. 1918 to 2005. Turkish Reflections. A Biography of Place. 1991. Eric Newby. 1919 to 2006. Popular English travel writer. A Short Walk in the Hindu Kush. 1958. Slowly Down the Ganges. 1966. On the Shores of the Mediterranean. 1984. Lucian Wolanovsky. 1920 to 2006. Post to Never Never Land. Poland. 1968. Reports from Australia. Heat and Fever. Poland. 1970. Reports from the Working World Health Organization Information Department in Geneva. Travels in New Delhi, Bangkok and Manila. 1967 1968. Jose Dvorak. 1920 to 1990. India Coromandia. 1962. A travelogue through India by one of the most important Slovenian essayists of the 20th century. Zulfikar Zuko Dizimher. 1921. Konich. Bosnia and Herzegovina. 1989. Was a Bosnian writer, painter and caricaturist. He wrote screenplays and hosted TV show Hodolubije, a travel documentary. He successfully produced this show for over 10 years for television TV Sarajevo. Hodolubije. 1982. TV Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Travelogue, a travel documentary with focus on culture, traditions, art and nature of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Yugoslavia and countries he sojourned, primarily Islamic and countries of Mediterranean basin. Necrologue Jednoj 1958. Obituary of Acacia. The downtown, Main Street Ottoman Turkish-style bazaar. With an introduction by Ivo Andrić. Pisma iz Azia. 1973. Letters from Asia. Pisma iz Afrika I Evrope. Letters from Africa and Europe. Stogodisnia Price. Centennial Tales. Putovania by Jelam Ladam. 1982. Voyage with White Lada. Lada is a brand of Russian automobile. Adakale. Zelena Kolja Montenegro. Green Carpet of Montenegro, co-authored with Serbian novelist Momo Kapor. Truman Capote. 1924 to 1984. American writer, screenwriter and reporter. Local color. 1950. The Dogs Bark. Public People and Private Places. 1971. Gerald Durrell. 1925 to 1995. My Family and Other Animals. 1956. A description of an idyllic childhood on Corfu in the 1930s by the brother of Lawrence Durrell. 1912 to 1990. This text combines natural observations, humor, storytelling, and travel. Fillets of Plice. 1971. Jan Morris. Born 1926. Author of many works, especially about cities. Prior to the 1970s, her work was published under her previous name, James Morris. Quote, Coast to Coast. 1956. Oxford. 1965. The Matter of Wales. 1984. Trieste and the Meaning of Nowhere. 2001. Peter Matthiessen. 1927–2014. American novelist, naturalist and founder of the Paris Review. Under the Mountain Wall. A Chronicle of Two Seasons in the Stone Age. 1962. The Snow Leopard. 1978. East of Lo Monthang. In the Land of Mustang. 1995. Jean Baudrillard. 1929–2007. America. 1986. Che Guevara. 1928–1967. The Motorcycle Diaries. 1952. Traces the 8,000 kilometers trip through South America of Marxist revolutionary Ernesto Che Guevara, then a 23-year-old medical student, and his friend Alberto Granado, a 29-year-old biochemist, who also published his own diaries of the event in Traveling with Che Guevara. Primoz Kozak. 1929–1981. Peter Klepek in America. 1971. A travelogue through the United States by one of the most important Slovenian essayists of the 20th century, Juan Goytisolo. Born 1931. Campos de Nia. 1959. Ted Simon. Born 1931. Jupiter's Travels. 1979. Ryszard Kapuscinski. 1932–2007. Another Day of Life. 1976. The Soccer War. 1978. The Emperor. Downfall of an Autocrat. 1978. Shah of Shahs. 1982. Imperium. 1993. The Shadow of the Sun. 2001. C.E.'s Nooteboom. Born 1933. Dutch travel writer. Berlijn's Notities. 1990. Roads to Santiago. 1992. Nooteboom's Hotel. 2002. Barbara Grizzuti Harrison. 1934–2002. Italian Days. 1989. David Lodge. Born 1935. Paradise News. 1991. Hunter S. Thompson. 1937–2005. The Curse of Lono. 1980. Venedikt Yerofeyev. 1938–1990. Moskva P. Tushki. 1973. A Russian Tale of Alcohol, Love, and a Train Ride. Translated into English as Moscow to the End of the Line. William Least Heat Moon. Born 1939. Blue Highways. A Journey into America. 1982. Peter Mayle. Born 1939. A Year in Provence. 1989. Colin Fabron. Born 1939. Mirror to Damascus. 1967. Among the Russians. 1983. Behind the Wall. A Journey Through China. 1987. To a Mountain in Tibet. 2011. Bruce Chatwin. 1940–1989. In Patagonia. 1977. Travels in Patagonia in the early 1970s. The Song Lines. 1987. Travels in the outback of Australia in the early 1980s. What Am I Doing Here? 1988. Collected short travelogues and articles. Francis Mays. Born 1940. Under the Tuscan Sun. 1996. A memoir of buying, renovating, and living in an abandoned villa in rural Tuscany in Italy. Paul Theroux. Born 1941. Prolific travel writer. Author of nearly 24 books of travel writing. The Great Railway Bazaar. 1975. Theroux's most popular travel work, The Old Patagonian Express. 1979. Traveling the World, The Illustrated Travels of Paul Theroux. 1990. The Happy Isles of Oceania. 1992. The Pillars of Hercules. 1995. Fresh Air Fiend. 2000. Dark Star Safari. 2002. Ghost Train to the Eastern Star. 2008. The Tower of Travel. 2011. Werner Herzog, born 1942, German film director of Walking in Ice, account of a 3-week walk from Munich to Paris in the winter of 1974. Jonathan Raban, born 1942, Old Glory, An American Voyage, 1981. Michael Crichton, 1942 to 2008. Travels, 1988. Gao Xingzhan, born 1940, Soul Mountain, 1990. Mary Morris, born 1947, Nothing to Declare, Memoirs of a Woman Traveling Alone, 1987. Wall to Wall, From Beijing to Berlin by Rail, 1991. Angels and Aliens, A Journey West, 1999. The River Queen, 2007. P. J. O'Rourke, born 1947, Holidays in Hell, 1989. Driving Like Crazy, 2009. Holidays in Heck, 2011. 21st Century. Larry McMurtry, born 1936, Roads, Driving America's Great Highways, 2000. Paradise, 2002. James M. McPherson, born 1936, Hallowed Ground, A Walk at Gettysburg, 2003. Michael Palin, born 1943, Sahara, 2002. Tom Miller, born 1947, Best Travel Writing 2005. Introduction, pp. XVIIXXI. 2005. A Sense of Place. Great travel writers talk about their craft, lives, and inspiration. 2004. pp. 325 to 343. Writing on the Edge, A Borderlands Reader, ed. 2003. Traveler's Tales, Cuba, ed. 2001. Jack Ruby's Kitchen Sink, Offbeat Travels Through America's Southwest, 2000. Trading with the Enemy, A Yankee Travels Through Castro's Cuba, 1992. The Panama Hack Trail, A Journey from South America, 1986. Arizona, The Land and the People, ed. 1986. On the Border, Portraits of America's Southwestern Frontier, 1981. Mikiro Sasaki, born 1947, Japanese poet and travel essayist. Ajikaido Kiko, Umiwa Toshidararu, A Travel Journal of the Asian Seaboard, 2002. Lawrence Millman, born 1948, An Evening Among Headhunters, and Other Reports from Roads Less Taken, 1999. Last Places, A Journey in the North, 2000. Northern Latitudes, 2000. Lost in the Arctic, Explorations on the Edge, 2002. Nick Tosches, 1949. The Last Opium Den, 2002. Chris Stewart, born 1950. Driving Over Lemons, An Optimist in Andalusia, 1999. A Parrot in the Pepper Tree, 2002. The Almond Blossom Appreciation Society, 2007. Bill Bryson, born 1951. The Lost Continent, Travels in Small-Town America, 1989. Neither Here Nor There, Travels in Europe, 1992. Notes from a Small Island, 1995. Travels in the United Kingdom, A Walk in the Woods, Rediscovering America on the Appalachian Trail, 1999. Down Under, 2001. Bill Bryson's African Diary. 2002. The Road to Little Dribbling. More Notes from a Small Island. 2015. Douglas Adams. 1952–2001. Last Chance to See. 1990. Vikram Seth. Born 1952. From Heaven Lake. Travels through Sinkiang and Tibet. 1983. Quim Monzo. Born 1952. Guadalajara. 1997. Barcelona und anderes Alangen. 2007. Neil Peart. Born 1952. Drummer for the Canadian rock band Rush. The Mars Rider. Cycling in West Africa. 1996. Ghost Rider. Travels on the Healing Road. 2002. A chronicle of motorcycle trips through North and Central America. Traveling Music. The Soundtrack of My Life and Times. 2004. Ken Kaufman. Born 1954. Kingbird Highway. The story of a natural obsession that got a little out of hand. 1997. Rory McLean. Born 1954. Stalin's Nose. 1992. The Oatmeal Ark. 1997. Under the Dragon. 1998. Next Exit Magic Kingdom. 2000. Falling for Icarus. 2004. Magic Bus. 2006. Christopher Paul Baker. Born 1955. Mimoto Fiddle. Motorcycling through Castro's Cuba. 2001. Winner of the Lowell Thomas Award, Travel Book of the Year, and North American Travel Journalist Association Grand Prize. Denison Berwick. Born 1956. Savages. The Life and Killing of the Yanomami. 1992. Amazon. 1990. A Walk Along the Ganges. 1986. Anthony Bourdain. Born 1956. A Cook's Tour. 2001. Pico Iyer. Born 1957. Video Night in Kathmandu. 1988. Falling Off the Map. Some Lonely Places of the World. 1993. Sun After Dark. Flights into the Foreign. 2004. Tony Horwitz. Born 1958. One for the Road. An Outback Adventure. 1987. Baghdad Without a Map and Other Misadventures in Arabia. 1991. Confederates in the Attic. Dispatches from the Unfinished Civil War. 1998. Blue Latitudes. Boldly Going Where Captain Cook Has Gone Before. 2002. A Voyage Long and Strange. Rediscovering the New World. 2008. Rebecca Sollitt. Born 1961. Wanderlust. A History of Walking. 2000. A Field Guide to Getting Lost. 2005. Infinite City. A San Francisco Atlas. 2010. Chuck Palahniuk. Born 1962. Fugitives and Refugees. A Walk in Portland, Oregon. 2003. Jeffrey Tyler. Born 1962. Siberian Dawn. A Journey Across the New Russia. 1999. Facing the Congo. A Modern-Day Journey into the Heart of Darkness. 2000. Glory in a Camel's Eye. Trekking through the Moroccan Sahara. 2003. Angry Wind. Through Muslim Black Africa by truck, bus, boat, and camel. 2005. River of No Reprieve. Descending Siberia's Waterway of Exile, Death, and Destiny. 2006. Carl Taro Greenfeld. Born 1964. Speed Tribes. Days and Nights with Japan's Next Generation. 1995. William Dalrymple. Born 1965. In Xanadu. A Quest. 1989. From the Holy Mountain. 1994. Jay Griffiths. Born 1965. Wild. 2006. Tahir Shah. Born 1966. Beyond the Devil's Teeth. 1995. Sorcerer's Apprentice. 1998. Trail of Feathers. 2001. In Search of King Solomon's Mines, 2002. House of the Tiger King, 2004. The Caliph's House, 2006. In Arabian Nights, 2008. Travels with Myself, Collected Work, 2011. Timbuktu, 2012. Guy Delisle, born 1966. Shenzhen, A Travelogue from China, 2000. Pyongyang, A Journey in North Korea, 2003. Burma Chronicles, 2007. Jerusalem, Chronicles from the Holy City, 2011. Cheryl Strayed, born 1968. Wild, From Lost to Found on the Pacific Crest Trail, 2012. J. Martin Troost, born 1969. The Sex Lives of Cannibals, Adrift in the Equatorial Pacific, 2004. Getting Stoned with Savages, A Trip Through the Islands of Fiji and Vanuatu, 2006. Elizabeth Gilbert, born 1969. Eat, Pray, Love, One Woman's Search for Everything, Across Italy, India and Indonesia, 2006. Vishwana Earth Ghosh, born 1970. Chai, Travels in Places Where You Stop But Never Get Off, 2009. Kira Salik, born 1971. The Cruelest Journey, 600 Miles to Timbuktu, 2004. Tom Bissell, born 1974. Chasing the Sea, Lost Among the Ghosts of Empire in Central Asia, 2003. Vyacheslav Krasko, born 1974. The Year of Spring, The Travel What Lasts a Year, 2012. See also: Travelogues of Palestine, Travel Itinerary, Bibliography. Batten, Charles Lynn, 1978. Pleasurable Instruction, Form and Convention in 18th-Century Travel Literature. Berkeley, University of California Press. ISBN 978-0-520-03260-6. OCLC 4419780. Cheney, Edward, 1998. The Evolution of the Grand Tour. Anglo-Italian Cultural Relations Since the Renaissance. London, Frank Cass. ISBN 978-0-7146-4577-3. OCLC 38304358. Chatzapanajotti Sangmeister, Julia. 2006. Griechenland, Zypern, Balkan und Levante. Eine kommentierte Bibliographie der Reichsliteratur des 18. Jahrhunderts. In German. Utin, Lampeter and Lazel. ISBN 978-3-98106742-2. OCLC 470,750,661. Cox, Edward Godfrey. 1935–1949. A Reference Guide to the Literature of Travel, including voyages, geographical descriptions, adventures, shipwrecks and expeditions. 1–3. Seattle, University of Washington, via Hathi Trust. Also Volume 1 via Internet Archive. Fussell, Paul. 1963. Patrick Bryden. The 18th-Century Traveler as Representative Man. Literature as a Mode of Travel. New York Public Library. pp. 53–67. OCLC 83683507. Hargett, James M. 1985. Some Preliminary Remarks on the Travel Records of the Song Dynasty. 960-1279. Quote: Chinese Literature. Essays, Articles, Reviews. 7. 1/2. 67–93. DOI 10.2307 495,194. JSTOR 495,194. William Thomas Lowndes, 1869. Voyages and Travels. In Henry G. Bourne. Bibliographer's Manual of English Literature. 5. London. Bell and Daldy. Speak. Jennifer. 2003. Literature of Travel and Exploration. An Encyclopedia. New York. Fitzroy Dearborn. ISBN 1-57958-247-8. OCLC 55631133. Stolley, Karen. 1992. El Lazarillo de Ciegos Caminantes. Un Itinerario Critico. In Spanish. Hanover. N.H. Editions del Norte. ISBN 978-0-910061-49-0. OCLC 29205545.